The gates of Blackthorn keep open just after dawn, and every guard on the wall stopped moving. Ash, the Alpha King's enormous black wolf, emerged from the white haze of the northern road with blood frozen along one hind leg. Beside him stumbled Mara Ellison, the rejected Omega who had been sent into the Forbidden Forest before sunset the previous evening. Her gray cloak was torn almost in half. Ash held one strip gently between his teeth, pulling whenever Mara's knees threatened to buckle. Men who had watched her exile now stared as if the dead had walked home. Mara made it 3 steps beyond the gate before the world tilted. She caught Ash's shoulder instead of falling. Around his injured leg was another strip of her cloak, tied tightly above a silver snare cut. Something metallic hung from the bandage. Alpha King Rowan Vale came down the stone steps without waiting for his guards. His eyes went first to Mara, then to the broken wire. His face changed. "Nobody touches them," Rowan said. The command stopped 2 guards who had already reached for Mara. Behind them, murmurs spread through the courtyard. Mara barely heard them. Her fingers were numb, her lips cracked from cold, and every breath seemed to scrape the inside of her chest. Still, she saw the moment Rowan bent and lifted the broken wire from Ash's bandage. The metal was dull silver, but the locking tooth carried a tiny stamped crown. Mara had noticed it in darkness while cutting Ash free. She had not known what it meant. Rowan clearly did. Cole Mercer, Alpha of Greyfen and the man who had ordered Mara's exile, pushed through the gathering crowd. "She was sentenced," he said. "Whatever trick she used on the beast changes nothing." Ash turned his head. A low sound rolled through his chest. Cole stopped. Rowan did not look away from the wire. "This is Crown equipment," Rowan said. Cole's expression tightened. Mara forced herself upright. "There are sled tracks north of the old boundary stones." Rowan looked at her then. "What?" "Fresh tracks. Several sleds. They were moving before the storm." Cole gave a short laugh. "She spent 1 night in the forest and returned with another accusation." Mara felt the old doubt rise instantly. It always began the same way. A pause. A look from someone important. The suggestion that she had misunderstood what she saw. Months earlier, she had reported changes to a winter trail that did not match the route approved by Greyfen's council. Cole had called her confused. When she refused to alter the report, the man chosen to become her mate rejected her before the entire pack. After that, every warning became proof that Mara was bitter. She looked at Rowan. "Send riders now. Believe me later." The courtyard went quiet. Snow had begun again by the time Rowan ordered 3 crown riders north. He chose men from the western garrison, none connected to Greyfen or the border command. Cole protested that the king's interference violated pack judgment. Rowan answered without raising his voice. "She is not under your authority while I investigate crown equipment found on my wolf." That was not freedom. Mara understood the difference. She was taken to a heated chamber near the infirmary and given dry clothes, broth, and a blanket. Ash refused to leave the door until Rowan personally came for him. Mara watched through the open doorway as the king crouched beside the wolf and examined the bandage she had tied. He did not praise her. He did not ask why she had helped Ash. He simply checked the knot, then looked at her hands. "You cut him free with those?" Mara glanced at the blisters across her fingers. "The wire saw did most of the work." "You had a wire saw?" "I was sent into a forbidden forest in winter. I packed for surviving it." For the first time, Rowan almost smiled. The riders returned before noon. Their horses were white with snow. The leader entered the hall carrying a branch with a clean blade mark and a piece of dark canvas torn from a sled cover. "The Omega was right," he said. "At least 4 sleds passed through the northern trail yesterday. Maybe more." Someone cut branches afterward to hide the width. Cole's face went still. Rowan asked, "How far did you follow?" "Not far. The storm was closing. We found something else." The rider placed a small bronze disc on the table. A broken Royal Scout insignia. Mara recognized the place. Before he described it. "Near the Black Pines?" The rider nodded. That was where she had first heard Ash struggling. Rowan's eyes shifted to her. "You are going back." Cole scoffed. "You cannot seriously trust her." I did not say I trusted her, Rowan replied. The words struck harder than Mara expected. Rowan seemed to notice. She looked at him. Then we have a problem, Your Majesty. His brows lifted. If I go back, I choose the route. Rowan folded his arms. Anything else? Ash goes only if he chooses to. Nobody chains him. Nobody orders him. Several officers stared at her as if she had forgotten who stood before her. Rowan looked toward Ash. The wolf was lying beside the door, watching Mara. Finally, Rowan said, agreed. They entered the Forbidden Forest in the early afternoon with 6 riders, 2 scouts, Rowan, Mara, and Ash. The forest had earned its name over generations. Wolves were not the danger. Winter was. Deep ravines disappeared beneath snow. Old logging cuts turned into traps. Storms could erase direction in minutes. Mara walked ahead of Rowan because she had requested control of the route, though every instinct trained into her since childhood told her a king belonged in front. Near the first boundary marker, she stopped. What? Rowan asked. Mara brushed snow from the wooden post. The carved arrow pointed east. She walked behind it and dug at the base. The ground is loose. Rowan crouched beside her. Someone turned the marker, Mara said. Probably after the ground froze. See the broken crust? He studied it. You can tell when? Not exactly. But recently. Ash moved past them and sniffed the trail. Rowan called his name once. The wolf kept walking beside Mara. That unsettled Rowan more than he admitted. The sled tracks were nearly gone, but Mara found the trail where the riders had lost it. She did not search the ground first. She searched the branches. Small cuts appeared at shoulder height, all angled inward. Someone had trimmed the path after passing through, forcing young branches to fall back across the opening. A supply convoy? Rowan asked. Maybe, Mara said. But whoever hit it knows how trackers think. Do you? I know how. Animals move. People are usually less careful. They reached the black pines as evening approached. Ash stopped before a shallow hollow and growled. Mara's stomach tightened. This is where I found him. She showed Rowan the tree where the snare cable had been anchored. Pieces of wire remained buried beneath snow. Rowan's scouts uncovered the locking frame. The same crown stamp appeared on the metal. One scout whispered, Border Patrol restraint gear. Rowan looked toward the northern ridge. Mara saw anger in him, but also calculation. That distinction mattered. They made camp at an abandoned watch shelter before darkness fell. Rowan's officers wanted Mara guarded outside the king's room. Rowan refused. She led us here. She is not a prisoner tonight. Mara sat near the fire sharpening the small knife she had used on Ash's snare. Rowan joined her after the others slept. Why did Greyfen reject your trail report? He asked. Mara kept working the stone along the blade. They said I was inexperienced. Were you? Compared with older trackers, yes. Could you have been wrong? She looked up surprised. Most people asked questions that already contained their preferred answer. Yes, Mara said. That was the problem. Rowan waited. I asked them to check. They told me checking would insult the officers who approved the route. Then they told me certainty was part of leadership. What did you think? I thought pretending certainty was worse. Rowan stared into the fire. That opinion is unpopular around kings, he said. Probably why I am not one. The next morning, riders approached before Mara's group could move. Their commander wore the dark green cloak of the Northern Border Forces. Gideon Cross dismounted with practiced calm. He was older than Rowan, broad-shouldered, with gray at his temples and the posture of a man who had spent decades being obeyed. He looked first at the exposed snare, then at Mara. You should not be here, Gideon said. Mara answered, people keep saying that. Rowan stepped between them. You recognize the route. Gideon did not lie. Yes. The officers around Rowan stiffened. Gideon explained that the hidden road had begun 9 winters. Earlier, after a settlement called Dunmere lost 47 people during a storm. Local leaders had argued for hours over evacuation authority. By the time permission arrived, the lower road was buried. Gideon's wife and young son had been among the dead. After Dunmere, he said, I built options that did not require 6 councils to agree while children froze. Rowan's voice hardened. You built a secret crown corridor. I built a road that has moved thousands of civilians. Mara listened carefully. Gideon was not proud of secrecy. He was proud of results. That made him more dangerous than a man who simply enjoyed power. They followed Gideon deeper into the corridor. He showed Rowan emergency supply sheds hidden beneath earth and timber. The stores were real. Grain, blankets, medicine, lamp oil. Mara understood why some border families might owe their lives to the route. Then she saw the tree marks. Small symbols had been carved low on trunks, nearly hidden by snow. Mara stopped breathing. Rowan noticed. What is it? She pulled back the edge of her sleeve. On her wrist was a faint ink mark made before Grayfen sent her away. A simple crossed line inside a circle. The same symbol appeared on the tree. Another stood 50 feet ahead. Then another. Gideon's face changed. What does it mean? Rowan asked. Mara answered before Gideon could. Pack judgment. Exile. Rowan turned slowly toward the commander. Gideon said, those marks were never part of my system. But someone put them on your road, Mara replied. Rowan ordered the corridor sealed. Mara said no. His head snapped toward her. Every officer went silent. If you close it before we understand how it is being used, everyone responsible will have time to erase the rest. There is crown equipment trapping my wolf. And people disappearing through a secret route nobody is supposed to know exists. I will not leave it open. You want control because control feels like action. Rowan's expression sharpened. Mara felt fear, but she kept going. That does not make it the right action. The forest seemed to hold its breath. Gideon watched them both. At last Rowan said, then give me a better one. It was the first time a ruler had asked Mara that question. They compromised. The main entrances remained watched, but no public closure order was issued. Gideon surrendered command of the nearby patrols while Rowan's scouts searched the route. Mara spent the afternoons studying the snare mechanism. She had seen animal restraint traps before. This one had been placed unusually high and angled toward a scent line. It was meant for Ash, she said. Rowan crouched beside her. Not any wolf? Look at the height. And the chain length. A smaller wolf could turn and chew the cable. Ash could not reach it. Rowan's jaw tightened. Mara touched the broken locking tooth. Someone knew he was coming. Rowan asked, how? I do not know. That answer frustrated him. Mara saw it immediately. Then Rowan exhaled and said, all right. She looked at him. All right what? All right, you do not know. It was such a simple response that Mara almost laughed. Instead, something inside her loosened. That night Rowan finally asked what had happened after her exile. Mara had been walking north for nearly 3 hours when she heard metal striking wood. She followed the sound and found Ash caught beside the black pines. At first, the wolf tried to bite her. She stayed outside the reach of his jaws and spoke while she worked. I told him he was an ungrateful monster, Mara said. Rowan stared. You insulted my wolf? He was trying to remove my arm. That seems reasonable. Mara smiled before she could stop herself. She explained how she used the wire saw, cut her cloak into strips, and wrapped Ash's leg. Then she followed him because he refused to travel south. He was tracking something, she said. I thought maybe whoever trapped him. What happened? I found the sled trail. Then the weather turned. She hesitated. I could have kept going north alone. Why didn't you? Mara looked at Ash sleeping near the fire. Because he was hurt. The next morning, Rowan's scouts found a second site 2 miles north. Blood stained the snow beneath a fallen cedar, but there were no bodies. They found a torn Royal Scout cloak and signs that several men had been dragged or carried toward the hidden corridor. Gideon looked genuinely shaken. 3 scouts disappeared 6 days ago, he admitted. Rowan turned on him. You told the Crown they deserted. I reported what my officers reported. You accepted it? Gideon's face hardened. I had border villages preparing for raids. Yes. Mara studied the tracks. These men were not attacked here. Everyone looked at her. The blood was poured after the snow fell. She pointed to the clean layer beneath the stain. It never soaked into the older ice. One of Rowan's scouts checked and swore softly. The scene had been staged. Ash lowered his nose and followed another scent north. The trail led toward one of Gideon's own supply stations. Inside the station, they found food, fresh blankets, and 12 sealed packs prepared for people rather than soldiers. Each pack carried a small judgment mark. Gideon sat heavily on a wooden crate. "I never authorized this." Rowan believed him. Mara could tell because Rowan's anger changed direction. Gideon opened the station records voluntarily. He showed them patrol rotations, supply counts, and emergency orders. The hidden corridor had begun as a tool for rescue. Over years, commanders had added exceptions. One allowed trusted pack leaders to move sealed cargo during storms. Another permitted confidential transport when public routes created political risk. No order said, "Send exiles into the forest." No rule had to. The system created spaces where nobody asked what the cargo was. Mara found her own pack seal in one transport column. Grayfen had used the corridor 17 times in 2 years. "People?" Rowan asked. Gideon looked sick. "I do not know." Mara closed the ledger. "That is the problem." A messenger arrived before sunset carrying worse news. A group of 31 civilians had entered the corridor from the eastern settlements before Rowan's investigation began. The storm had destroyed the lower bridge behind them. They were now trapped somewhere between the river and the northern ridge. Gideon stood immediately. "Fort Kellen can send a recovery unit." "How long?" Mara asked. 6 hours. "They do not have 6 hours." "You do not know that." Mara looked toward the window. Snow was moving horizontally. "I know what that wind does to the ravine." Rowan said, "We leave in 10 minutes. His captain protested. "Your Majesty, you cannot personally enter a collapsing winter corridor." Rowan buckled his cloak. "I built a kingdom that lets officers hide behind my authority. I am going to see what that authority has done." Mara heard Gideon inhale. For the first time, the commander had no argument. They found the stranded group near midnight. Families crowded beneath overturned sleds and canvas sheets. 2 children were already showing signs of severe cold. The bridge south had collapsed. The northern road remained open on Gideon's map, but Mara could hear the river before she saw it. Too loud. She walked to the edge and found the second bridge shaking under ice pressure. "It will not hold everyone," she said. Gideon examined it. "There is no alternate route." Mara looked toward the ridge. Deer tracks climbed between 2 walls of stone. "The ridge path." Gideon shook his head. "That route ends at a cliff." "According to what year?" He frowned. "Your map." Rowan looked between them. Mara continued, "The deer came down from somewhere. They can cross terrain people cannot." Sometimes. Sometimes. She hated the uncertainty in her own voice. Cole's voice seemed to return from months earlier. Confused. Emotional. Inexperienced. Mara stared at the tracks. Then Ash started up the ridge. Rowan called him once. Ash stopped and looked back. Mara almost laughed. Apparently he has an opinion. The climb was steep enough that one mistake could send someone into the ravine. Rowan wanted scouts to confirm the entire path first. Mara shook her head. "We do not have time." "How certain are you?" The question struck the old wound precisely. She almost said 80%. She almost invented confidence because powerful men liked numbers. Instead, Mara said, "I am not certain." Rowan's officers exchanged looks. Mara pointed toward the snow. "The lower road has wind-packed powder. Nobody has used it since yesterday. These tracks are fresh. The deer came from above. Ash wants the same direction. The rock face blocks the north wind. I think there is a shelf behind it. And if there is not, we turn back and lose time. People could die." "Yes." Rowan stared at her for a long moment. Then he asked, "What do you need?" Mara blinked. 2 climbers. Rope. And everyone follows my pace. You have it. That was trust, she realized. Not agreement. Not certainty. Trust. The ridge opened exactly where Mara hoped it would. Behind the rock wall lay an old shepherd trail buried beneath only a few inches of snow. It wound toward the northern boundary. Mara did not feel triumphant. She felt relieved. That difference mattered. They moved children first, then the elderly, tying each traveler to a rope line. Rowan carried a boy whose feet had gone numb. Gideon took the weight of an injured woman without being asked. Ash moved constantly between Mara and the rear of the group. Halfway across, the snow shelf broke beneath Mara. She dropped to one knee and slid. Rowan caught the back of her coat. For one breath, she hung over the slope. He pulled her upright. His hands remained on her shoulders a second too long. "Are you hurt?" "No." His face was close enough that she could see ice melting in his eyelashes. "You are terrible at following your own pace," he said. Mara whispered, "I was distracted by a king ignoring instructions." He laughed once. Then they kept moving. At dawn, the group reached the northern passage. Armed officers blocked it. Their commander looked terrified rather than hostile. "I have orders," he said. "Nobody leaves the corridor until Crown reinforcements arrive." Rowan stepped forward. "I am the Crown." The officer swallowed. "The order carries Commander Cross's emergency seal." Everyone looked at Gideon. His face went gray. He remembered. Years earlier, after enemy scouts discovered one of his evacuation routes, Gideon had created a standing protocol. If secrecy was threatened during a border emergency, officers could lock both ends of a hidden corridor until command verified who had entered. It was designed to prevent enemy infiltration, he said. Mara looked at the exhausted civilians. "And now it is keeping children inside a storm." Gideon's joy tightened. "If we open this gate and enemy scouts are mixed among them, we could expose every northern settlement." Rowan said, "These people are freezing." "I know." "Then remove the order." Gideon did not. Mara suddenly understood why this had become possible. Gideon cared about people. He cared so much that he had built a system where individual people could disappear whenever protecting the larger number seemed necessary. Mara stepped toward the gate. "How many people are you willing to leave here?" Gideon looked at her. "Do not make this simple." "I am not. One infiltrator could expose the entire corridor. Then search us. The storm is destroying visibility. Then use the evidence you have." Gideon gestured toward the forest. Evidence is exactly what failed at Dunmere. Every leader had a different report. Every village wanted another route. Everyone wanted more information. "My family died while men debated uncertainty." His voice broke only once. Mara finally understood him. Not enough to agree. Enough to know what he feared. "Then you learned the wrong lesson," she said quietly. Gideon's eyes narrowed. "You learned that uncertainty was the enemy." It was not. Refusing to act together was. Rowan watched Mara, then the officers, then the locked gate. He could have simply ordered it opened. Everyone expected him to. Instead, he removed the royal seal from his cloak. "I am suspending my emergency authority over this corridor until the civilians are safe." His captain stared at him. "Your Majesty? If every order becomes correct because my name is on it, we have learned nothing." Rowan turned to the officers. "You have trapped civilians, a failing storm route, manipulated boundary markers, missing scouts, crown snares, and testimony from the commander who created this protocol. Evaluate what is in front of you." The gate commander looked at Gideon. Gideon closed his eyes. Then he said, "Open it." The iron bar lifted. Nobody cheered. They were too tired. The civilians crossed into the northern shelter while the storm swallowed the ridge behind them. Hours later, one of the rescued men asked to speak with Mara. His name was Thomas Reed, a carpenter from Greyfen. He had been expelled 8 months earlier after refusing to surrender land to one of Cole Mercer's allies. "They gave me a sealed pack," Thomas said. "Told me carrying it north would reduce my sentence." Mara's stomach turned. "What was inside?" "Medicine. I think. I never opened it." "Did you reach the other side?" "Yes." "Then why did you not return?" Thomas laughed bitterly. "Return to what?" Other exiles told similar stories. Not everyone sent into the forest died. That was how the abuse remained hidden. Some disappeared into border settlements. Some became couriers. Some never returned. Greyfen's leaders could call every absence punishment, flight, or unfortunate weather. The corridor gave them plausible silence. Then Rowan's missing scouts were found. They had taken refuge in an abandoned charcoal shelter after being attacked. 2 were injured, but alive. Their testimony completed the picture. The scouts had discovered unregistered Greyfen transports weeks earlier. They followed the route. Cole's men realized they were being watched and staged the bloody sight to suggest the scouts had been killed by raiders. Ash had followed the scouts sent from the keep after one injured horse returned alone. That was why he entered the forbidden forest before Mara. That was why someone placed a crown-style restraint snare specifically for him. Cole had not expected the king's wolf to survive it. He certainly had not expected a rejected Omega to free him. Rowan listened to the scouts without interrupting. When the account ended, he looked at Mara. So Ash did not enter the forest for you? No. And you did not bring him back? Mara shook her head. He brought me. Ash was lying between them. Rowan rested one hand against the wolf's neck. Why? Mara thought about the night again. Ash could have left after she cut the snare. He had not. He had led her toward the scout's trail. When the storm overwhelmed her, she remembered waking briefly with her arm across his back. She remembered him pulling her cloak. She remembered refusing to stand. I think he trusted me, she said. Rowan looked at the bandage still wrapped around Ash's leg. Why? Mara smiled faintly. Maybe because I helped him when I had nothing to gain. Rowan's gaze stayed on her. Mara felt heat that had nothing to do with the shelter fire. She looked away first. Cole Mercer was arrested 2 days later, but Rowan refused to turn the event into a public spectacle. Investigators from 3 independent packs entered Greyfen. The evidence was preserved before anyone could destroy it. Gideon surrendered every emergency order he had written for the Northern Corridor. He was removed from command while the inquiry continued. Mara expected him to resent her. Instead, he found her outside the council chamber. You were right about one thing, Gideon said. Only one. A tired smile crossed his face. Systems cannot protect people if they stop hearing them. Mara studied him. You saved lives with that road. I also made it easy for other men to hide what they were doing. Both can be true. Gideon looked surprised. Mara understood why. People preferred villains who made moral judgment simple. The truth was harder. A good intention could build a dangerous machine. A frightened man could save thousands and still create conditions that harmed dozens. Rowan changed the forest laws before the month ended. No pack could exile a member into restricted territory without independent review. Hidden emergency routes remained operational, but their authority was divided among Crown officers, local trail keepers, and civilian delegates. Every transport required 2 independent records. Mara expected Rowan to announce the reforms himself. Instead, he asked her to present the route system to the Northern Council. I am not a court speaker, she said. You argued with me in front of 8 armed officers. That was different. How? I was angry. Then I suggest becoming angry before the meeting. She laughed. Rowan did too. The sound changed something between them. Not suddenly. Not magically. It simply made the distance between King and Omega feel less permanent. After the council meeting, Rowan asked Mara to walk with him along the outer wall. Ash followed several steps behind. I want you to lead the Northern Trail Council, Rowan said. Mara stopped. You already decided? No. Good answer. Rowan almost smiled. I want to offer it. Mara looked across the forest below the walls. What happens if I refuse you? You remain the woman who exposed a system my government failed to see. And if I accept? You become responsible for helping build something better. Not Luna. Rowan's expression changed. Did you think that was what I was offering? I wanted to make sure you didn't. He faced her fully. Mara, I am trying very hard not to turn respect into possession. The honesty in his voice struck deeper than any grand declaration could have. She said, keep trying. I intend to. Mara accepted the council position 3 days later, but she added conditions. Trail keepers would be chosen by regional vote, not royal appointment alone. Exiles and border settlers would have representation. Emergency closures required review after every use. Rowan agreed to all of them. Then Mara added one more. My position cannot depend on whatever happens between you and me. Rowan's eyes stayed on hers. It will not. Even if I decide I cannot stay here. It will still be yours until the council removes you. Mara had spent months believing recognition always came with a price. Obedience. Gratitude. Silence. A bond she did not choose. Rowan offered none of those terms. That frightened her more than pressure might have. Freedom meant the decision belonged to her. She touched the stone wall between them. I don't know what happens between us. Neither do I. For once, uncertainty did not sound like failure. Winter softened slowly. The Forbidden Forest was never renamed, though children soon began joking that it was less forbidden every week. Boundary markers were reset. Old punishment symbols disappeared from the trees. Shelters were marked openly on civilian maps. Mara spent long days training new trail teams. Rowan sometimes joined inspections. Sometimes he did not. That mattered. He was learning not to make his presence the center of every solution. Mara was learning something too. When a younger tracker challenged one of her route choices, her first reaction was anger. Then she stopped. "Show me what you saw," she said. The girl pointed out a thaw line Mara had missed. They changed the route. That evening, Mara sat outside her quarters thinking about how easily wounded people repeated the behavior that wounded them. Rowan found her there. Bad day. Useful day. Those are often worse. She looked at him. You are becoming annoyingly teachable. I have excellent instruction. Spring arrived with water running beneath the ice. On the first official survey of the reopened Northern Trail, Mara returned to the place where she had found Ash caught in the silver snare. The tree remained scarred where the cable had bitten into the bark. She stood there longer than she expected. Ash approached and pressed his shoulder against her leg. His wound had healed, leaving only a thin line beneath the fur. Rowan came down the trail behind them carrying Mara's old wire saw. I found this in the evidence room, he said. She took it from him. The handle was scratched. One tooth was broken. It is terrible, Rowan said. It worked. So did you. Mara gave him a warning look. Careful. That sounded almost sentimental. I am king. I am permitted one sentimental statement per season. Who wrote that law? I did. That explains the quality. Ash sneezed. Mara laughed. At the northern ridge, the new council had placed the first shared trail marker. It carried no royal crown and no pack symbol. Only 3 carved lines showing the routes that met there. Rowan stopped several feet behind Mara. He did not tell her where to go. Ash sat beside him. Mara looked down the open spring trail. Months earlier, she had entered this forest because other people had decided her judgment had no value. She had walked into it believing survival meant leaving every part of her old life behind. Instead, she had found a wounded wolf, a hidden road, a broken system, and a king who had needed to learn that authority was not the same as certainty. She had learned something equally difficult. Being doubted did not mean she had to become incapable of doubting herself. She could question. She could listen. She could still choose. Rowan said, the eastern route? Mara glanced back. Maybe. His brows lifted. Maybe. The thaw changed the slope. We check before we commit. He nodded. No argument. No command. Just trust. Mara stepped onto the trail. Ash immediately rose and followed her. Rowan remained still for a moment. Mara turned. Are you coming? I thought you wanted to choose the route. I do. And? She smiled. Try to keep up. Mara turned toward the ridge. Ash followed first. After a moment, Rowan followed too.